please welcome Scott County Attorney Ron Hocevar.
Thank you, Jessica. This on, can you hear me? All right. Good morning. Good morning. You had some coffee or pop, right? Good morning. Good morning. All right, that's better. Excuse me. All right. Here to talk to you about sexting. Specifically, what your children might be doing, what we're seeing in our grade schools, in our high schools, is with these kids in sexting. And how I got involved with this is that, like Jessica was saying, she would get phone conversations and messages from school liaison officers. Same thing was happening in Scott County. I was getting phone calls from our officers that are in the schools, from the counselors saying, "Hey Ron, we're seeing this sexting stuff. What can we do about it?" And it's getting more and more. And I would talk to other people out in the community, Carver County, Hennepin County, Ramsey County, talking to those county attorneys. Same thing's happening throughout the state, throughout the nation. So I thought we have to get this information out to the schools. We have to get this out to the parents and get it out to the kids, because these kids, as you'll hear me talk about, know that what they're doing is, they know they shouldn't be doing it, right? But they don't really know how wrong it is. They don't really know how deep they can get into it and what can happen to them, not only them personally, but their opportunities throughout life. So that's kind of how I started this whole talking about sexting and trying to get it out to parents and getting it out to the community and getting it out to the schools. So sexting, all the kids are doing it. That's the truth. You might not think your kids are doing it. You might not think that they don't know somebody who's doing it, but chances are that they at least have seen it, have friends who have seen it, and know that it's going on. Cell phones, right? It's really a misnomer. Okay, how many of you have kids with cell phones? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few. Chances are, as a parent, you're probably about the only person they ever talk to on a cell phone. They don't use them to talk to people. They text, they go on the internet. So they should be called cell computers. They're not. They talk to their parents on it, that's about it. Oh, I guess the power helps. All right, sexting. Sending sexually explicit photos or text through one cell phone. All right, now, if you're talking about strictly texting, sending sexual notes to another student, to a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, as a prosecutor, as the chief legal officer for the county, not my problem. Unless it gets to the point of bullying or terroristic threats or something like that, then it would be an issue for the prosecuting office. But if it's just talking in a sexual nature to an individual, that's a parental issue. Unless it gets to, like I said, unless it gets to a point of bullying, which can and does happen. What I'm talking about specifically is the sexting as it relates to pornography, specifically child pornography. Anyone under the age of 18 years old sending sexually explicit photographs, chances are is child pornography. And I'll get into the whole legal definitions of what that means a little bit later. How did it all start? How did we get to where we are today? 1950s, before this kind of technology, pin-up girls. Pretty harmless by today's standards, right? Move along through our system here, get to the 1960s, Playboy comes along, publications. The progression continues, you get into Penthouse, 1980s, mainstream adult porn on VHS. Remember those VHS? Those of you my age remember those, you know? Then the 1990s, porn makes a big impact on online. That's when the internet started really hitting its stride. Get to the 2000s, webcamming of live sex shows. Now you can get on the internet and watch a live sex show. I also want to say I don't want to just stand up here and talk to you. If you have questions at all about anything as I'm going through this, please raise your hand, ask me the question, have a discussion. I'd prefer that than me just boring you and just talking at you. So anything comes up, please feel free to raise your hand and ask a question. 2010. Use of cell phones to get amateur photos of the opposite sex. So now you're not even talking about the professionals with their webcam shows. Now you're talking the ability to do it yourself. So this is obviously a screenshot of, anyone know what that's a screenshot of? Snapchat. When this first came out, what was the big thing we heard about why it was supposedly harmless? It vanishes quickly. Completely false. Completely false. They can be saved, and one thing I'm going to be talking about was once you post something on the internet, it never, ever, ever goes away. Never. We've got great law enforcement people, like our next speaker you'll be hearing about, with the forensic tools that are available today. As prosecutors and investigators, we will find it. And guess what? We're not as good as the child pornographers. We're not as good as the criminals. They're always a step ahead. So once something is posted, it does not go away. Okay, major part of everyday communication, like I talked about before. Our teenagers, they're not talking, they're texting. They're sexting. It's the flirtation. Well, back in my day, you flirted with somebody. You might brush against them in the hallway at the locker, try to get their attention. Being a high school boy, you'd probably act like an idiot and try to get their attention. But in these days, you don't have to do that. In my day, you were next to the girl. You could see them, eye contact. Really easy these days. You can flirt from 100 miles away. Very impersonal. Makes it easier. A few stats. This was back in 2015. I would venture to say that the statistic is a lot higher these days. 54% of college students said they'd sent sexually explicit photos or messages when they were under the age of 18. And again, 22% of teen girls have sent nude photos of themselves electronically. Over a third of teen boys. Now you look at that, 22% of teen girls. Now, I'm married, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old son, and I talk to my wife about what I'm doing, and she's horrified. I tell her, yeah, or she asks about cases, and I say, I've got this 14-year-old girl who sent five sexual pictures to her boyfriend who's 16. And she's like, oh my God. She goes, as a 14-year-old girl, I would have been horrified for anybody, any boy to see me naked. And here's these 14-year-old girls that are being, talked into sending these pictures. And this is what we need to be aware of, boys and girls. But, face the facts. More often than not, the girls are sending the pictures. If they do the breakup, these boys might get back at them. Guess what? It's going to be forwarded to the hockey team. It's going to be forwarded to the football team. Pretty soon that girl's walking down the hall, and she's going to be the girl that sends sexually explicit photos to this boy. Girls are too trusting of their boyfriends, and they'll never think they'll do such a terrible thing. They get talked into it. I'll talk about it in a little bit, about peer pressure. Peer pressure is huge at that age, as you all know. But they get talked into it. Oh, come on, do you like me? You don't you like me? Send me a picture. Come on, it's harmless. I'm not going to do anything. I'll delete it. Right. Peer pressure. Probably the biggest thing that your kids deal with at that age as far as whether to do something or not do something? Their interest, obviously, but peer pressure. What are their friends doing? How are they going to do it? Are they going to be part of the cool crowd? If you're on Sexting these days, you clearly aren't part of the cool crowd. This is an article. This is what your sons and daughters are reading on the internet, on the magazines that they may read. Everyone's doing it. You want to be with us? You're going to sext. You want to be with us? Be part of this group. Come on, Jessica did it. You can send it. Yes?
Where's that from?
This was, I believe, in a Cosmo magazine, if I'm not correct. I'm not positive, but I believe it was that. Yeah. And again, more females do it than males, but it's pretty close. You can see 52% of girls did so as a sexy present to a boyfriend, and 34% have done it in a sexually suggestive content to feel sexy. And you can see here, pressured by friends to send or post sexual content. Again, peer pressure. Oh, come on, Mary sent me a picture. Why don't you send me a picture? Or Mary sent her boyfriend a picture. Why can't you send me a picture? I'll send you one back. Yeah, right. I'll delete it. Again, this is what they're reading. Old-fashioned love letters dead. If you want to keep the spark in your relationship, send me a nude photo. Send me a sexual photo. Ryan texts his girlfriend, Mary, we're going to break up. Oh no, please don't break up with me. Yeah, no, we're going to break up. No, please, I'll send you a picture if you don't break up with me. Okay. Keep the spark alive in the sexual relationship. Again, this was a men's magazine, Ask Men online magazine. Huge fan of sexting. Why? Modern day love letter. It's entertainment for those moments when that person you're texting feels sexually deprived or simply just a little bored and horny. And again, it kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier. It's very impersonal. You can do it from across the world. Again, just to date myself, back in my day, I'd actually have to go to a phone that was corded to a wall to talk to a girl, and I would have to, before I did that, I would have to make sure none of my sisters or my mom and dad would be in the area so I could talk privately. I couldn't grab a phone, go into my bedroom and close the door. I'd have to sit in the kitchen and hope no one came in. If they did come in, okay, talk to you later, boom. You know, that's the way it was. But at least it was personal. You're actually talking to the person. No, you're not even talking to them. You're across the world. Very impersonal, very easy to do stuff when you're not next to the person, when you're not talking to them, when you're not making eye contact with them, or even hearing their voice. Really easy to do stuff that way. And this is the huge thing. It's causing disruption on the school grounds throughout the nation and has generated problems for law enforcement. Some middle schools report sexting is their #1 behavioral problem. Middle schools. Can you believe that? Middle schools. And here's the issue that we have, not only in Minnesota, but throughout the nation. Laws that were written to protect minors against pedophiles have not yet caught up with technology. I'm going to get into this a little bit later too with some case studies. I'm going to show you what's been going on in Minnesota. And I struggle with this one too, because the child pornography laws that are on the books were written to protect our children from pedophiles. They were not written to protect your child from the 16-year-old boyfriend or girlfriend who are asking for sexual pictures, right? So, how do I deal with that in my office? How do we deal with that as prosecutors? You got a 14-year-old girl send a sexual image to her boyfriend. Well, she just created child pornography. She just distributed child pornography. He just received child pornography. He says it to the football team, he's just distributed child pornography. Who's the victim? Who is Who is the predator? Who's the pedophile? Is there one? Now, how it works now as the lead prosecutor for Scott County, I have the prosecutorial discretion to look at the facts of that case and determine, do I want to prosecute that girl? Do I want to prosecute that boy? Because there are no real written rules from the legislature how that works. Which on the one hand is great for me because I can use my discretion, look at all the facts of each case and say, all right, no, I'm not prosecuting her, I'm prosecuting him, I'm not prosecuting him, I'm prosecuting the football team, whatever. You can take a look at all those facts. The issue is another county attorney in some other county could look at those same facts and determine, oh, no, I'm prosecuting him, I don't care what Ron would have done. So it could be, so on the one hand I like it because I can use my own discretion and do what I think is right. And if the voters of Scott County say, Ron, you're completely off your rocker, you shouldn't be doing it that way, they can vote me out of office, right? But on the other hand, should there be a more comprehensive, a more uniform way to go about that throughout the state? So someone similarly situated in Scott County as they would be in Anoka County, should they have the same result? That's kind of the issue we're dealing with throughout the state. And to be honest with you, I'm on the borderline there. I like the discretion, but I can see why you need uniformity on that. Yes.
Back to the pictures. One of the ones you showed us, the girl was covered up, and in my mind, that seems like it's not appropriate to send, but her physically, I think she was, for the most part. What is the definition and how? Yeah, that I would argue that is, but I can see where many don't think that's inappropriate if it's a swimsuit.
Well, there's a big difference between appropriate and illegal.
Sure.
I only deal with illegal. This is not child pornography. Even if she was 13 years old, that is not child pornography. I'm going to get into the legal definition. But yeah, so again, not even appropriate versus illegal. What's pornographic and what is legally pornographic. What you might think is pornographic, she might think, oh, it's just an innocent picture.
Sure.
So, again, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
Yes?
So a picture like that could be blown out of proportion if it's traveled throughout the school, the reputation. You had mentioned bullying before. If people start giving this girl a hard time and they start bullying her, is that, like, at what point, are there any blurred lines, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Are there any blurred lines?
Yeah.
The whole sexting, child pornography is full of blurred lines, yes. So you're asking about bullying, whether this could be used as a part of a bullying campaign, so to speak, right? Absolutely. Any picture could be a part of that. And again, that would be a situation where, like my local jurisdiction would do a criminal investigation and get a hold of these pictures, get a hold of the texts, interview all the people that were involved with that. Then it would come to my office and we would make a legal determination whether we need to charge or should charge somebody with bullying or with terroristic threats or harassment or something like that. But yeah, there's no bright line that I can tell you, like, this is bullying, this is not bullying. I mean, bullying has kind of become a trigger word, I guess, so to speak. So again, what you might consider bullying, she might figure that's just kids being kids.
Is it kind of like harassment where it's in the, like if I consider it harassment against me, then it's harassment, maybe the person wasn't meaning it to be harassment, but I took it that way? I mean, is that kind of what?
And again, harassment could be very subjective to you, but then from a legal standpoint, we need to look at what was the intent of the person that's giving you the communication, how did you take it, what were the facts surrounding it, what was going on in your life, the other person's life, how was it all taken into context. All those things have to be investigated, looked at, and then then my office has to make a determination. All right, was it was it really harassment or not? Yeah, it's all very blurred lines, and that's where my job can get difficult, because when I talk about that before, that prosecutorial discretion comes into play, where my prosecutors look at it, come and talk to me and figure, no, we're not going to charge this one. Next time it happens, maybe, okay, now it's gotten to the form of harassment. Now we can charge it. So it's all those circumstances get taken into account. Again, talking about the laws, they were written for pedophiles, not really for our kids doing it to each other. Again, what I talked about before, most kids know that this is wrong, right? You can't tell me that when a girl or a boy, 14, 15 years old, is standing in front of a mirror naked, ready to take a picture and send it to their boyfriend or girlfriend, that they don't know what's wrong. In the back of their mind, they're thinking, oh man, this is wrong. They know it's wrong, but they don't really know how wrong it is. They don't know the lifelong consequences. They don't know the lifelong legal consequences. If I charge that girl with a felony, if I charge that boy with a felony, they will now be registered sex offenders. Even if I lose the case, they have an arrest on their record for child pornography. You might say acquitted, but who cares, right? It's going to be part of their lifelong record. If they're convicted, they're a registered sex offender. They're not going to be able to go get an apartment at very many places. And they meet with that college counselor. You think they're going to get into that college? Many, many, many jobs will be completely closed to them. All because they sent one picture of themselves naked to their boyfriend. That's the kind of thing that I don't think our teenagers understand. Like I say, they know it's wrong, but they don't really know how wrong it really is. Okay, here's how we get into the legal definitions in Minnesota. Use of a minor in a sexual performance. It's unlawful for a person to use a minor to engage in or assist others to engage in minors in posing, so on and such forth, of any sexual performance or pornographic work. Possession of pornographic work. A person who possesses pornographic work. So we got sexual performance or pornographic work. Again, what's the pornographic work to you? Might be different definition than what it might mean to you. And the dissemination. The dissemination is strictly just forwarding it on. So again, if the girlfriend forwards it to her boyfriend, he forwards it to the football team, he's guilty of dissemination of child pornography. And you can see, it's a felony. It's not just your misdemeanor speeding ticket. Pornography, what's pornography, right? Yes, question?
For those statistics on the previous screen, for those 7 years, 15 years, is that the number of years in prison, or is that the number of years on the sex offender registry? Are they always on the sex offender registry?
Depending on the 7 years, 15 years, it's a whole different discussion on the whole, what's called the Minnesota Sentencing Guidelines. The first offense, you're probably going to get local jail time. You're not going to be going to prison. These are, you have to accumulate so many criminal history points before you get to the point of going to prison. So the 7 years, 15 years is based on number of convictions. So that's how that works. Yes?
Just a note to add in there, if you do have a felony, it's extremely hard to find housing and cover that.
To what?
Find housing and cover that.
Exactly. Any felony, housing anywhere is going to be extremely hard for you to find. So again, that's one of those collateral consequences. Besides go to jail and having it on your record, you're closing the door to so many opportunities in your life at such a young age. Again, way back in 1964, kind of when pornography, remember my timeline of pornography, kind of really starting to hit the mainstream. One of our smartest justices on the U.S. Supreme Court couldn't even tell you what pornography was. So how are we supposed to know, right? It's kind of summarized, his quote is summarized out usually just that pornography, what is it? I don't know, but I know what it is when I see it, right? But again, everybody in here could probably have a different definition of pornography. I might look at something and say that's pornography, and you might look at it and say, nah, that's not pornography. So what is a pornographic work? They defined that for us too. It is a picture or a sexual performance involving a minor. Any visual depiction that uses a minor to depict actual or simulated sexual conduct, or to appear that a minor is engaging in sexual conduct. So it doesn't actually even have to be happening, the sexual conduct, but just having the appearance and having a minor in that is a pornographic work. What is sexual conduct? Now we have to define that, right? So sexual conduct, I love how our legislature did this. An act of sexual intercourse, normal or perverted. Like you can see a perverted act of sexual contact and say, oh, well, that's not going to be pornographic because it's not normal. But, and again, who's defining what's normal and not normal, right? Again, so these are all examples that are defined in the law to be sexual conduct. Sadomasochistic abuse, any lewd exhibition of the genitals, automatically child pornography. Physical contact with the clothed or unclothed pubic areas or buttocks of a human, or the breasts of the female, whether alone or between members of the same or opposite sex. Can anyone tell me what's missing in here that would not be considered sexual conduct? And focus on this last one. What's that? I'm sorry? Oh no, it's not. It's not in there. You're right. But I'm breastfeeding.
No, you said, so what's missing here that would not be considered?
Oh, what I think is interesting, that's what's missing in that. We run into this a lot as prosecutors. You look at your physical contact with the clothed or unclothed pubic areas or buttocks of a human, or the breasts of the female, whether alone or between members of the same or opposite sex. A picture of a female's breasts and a female's breasts only is not considered sexual conduct. But if there's physical contact, whether by the female or another, that's sexual conduct. I just thought that was interesting. Again, my personal opinion, but yeah. Oops. All right, we talked a little bit about this already. Social consequences, and I think Jessica's probably going to touch on this more on her presentation, but bad reputation, isolation, outcast from peer groups, undesired attention, sexual harassment. And once that image is sent, you no longer have a choice about who sees it. You lose all control. You press that send button, it's completely out of your hands. It's gone. You'll never get it back, and you can never control where it goes from there on. I think we had a situation in one of our schools fairly recently in Scott County where a girl, I think she was 14, was talked into or performed oral sex with her boyfriend, right? Peer pressure. I think even her friends were encouraging it. Well, the next day in school, walking down the hall, she was known as the girl who they were using the politically correct terms of oral sex, gave to her boyfriend. Even the friends that were encouraging it were now isolating her. And that's where it's going to get into bullying. But you think she feels good about that? You think she regrets it? She now has a bad reputation, and she's isolated and outcast from her peer groups, even the ones that were supportive of her when it was going to happen. This is a case, this is going to show you kind of why this stuff never disappears. It was last year, almost a year ago, that there was this big Marine Corps internet site that these Marines put together to get naked pictures of female Marines and put it on this big file folder, sharing folder. The Marine Corps shut it down at one point, but of course, like I said, these criminals are one step ahead of us all the time. They just did it again and did it at a different more secure one. And this was the quote that they put out there. They wanted only the nastiest photos. They kept sharing them, including the woman who thought her nightmare was over. And this is the woman. Back in 2014, photos that she had taken for her boyfriend were stolen, and they were later showing up at the defunct website because the Marine Corps shut it down, but they just built it back up again. And you can see her quote. She thought they disappeared because she thinks, okay, they shut it down, but then she would get random texts at work, and all of a sudden her own pictures were being emailed to her, being put on Twitter, being put on this internet site. The same 3 to 5 pictures that she took. And this was 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, they were stolen, and they're still popping up because she has lost all control of those photos. They will be out there forever, and they will keep appearing on the internet at some point, somewhere. And people that she knows, acquaintances, bosses, people she wants to get raises from, people that she wants to work with, people she wants to have mentor her, are going to see these photos, and guess what? They're not going to do it. Again, these are some of the cases. Down in Florida, 18-year-old Philip was convicted to sentenced to 5 years and to register as a sex offender for sending naked photos of his 16-year-old girlfriend to her family and friends after an argument. Again, they have an argument. Maybe they broke up, maybe they didn't, but he sent them to her family. So how do you think she feels about that? 13-year-old boy felony charges after video of sexual activity was found on his cell phone. New York, 16-year-old boy facing 7 years in prison for forwarding nude photos of his girlfriend to his friends. Yes?
The middle one, is that, was that with him or somebody just sent him and he didn't report it? Is that what makes it a felony?
It was the sexual activity was between 2 underage people.
Okay.
So that's child pornography. And whether it was him or somebody else, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So.
Had he reported it, then?
Well, that would come to my office, and I would have to make that call on whether he should be charged or not. If he just received it from somebody,
Yeah.
and came into Prior Lake Police Department and said, "Hey, I received this on my phone. They didn't ask for it," I would not charge him because he didn't ask for it. If I look back on his phone and he has a message to his friend Mike saying, "Hey, send me those pictures you got," then I'd probably charge him. But if it's just an innocent, because we've all got these things, right? Is there anyone here who doesn't have a cell phone who's under maybe? Probably not. But you can't control what you get, and we as prosecutors and legal officers, we understand that. So if you get something you didn't ask for it, chances are, at least if after the investigation I can show that you did not ask for this information, you're not going to be charged likely. But again, that goes in that prosecutorial discretion. So we can't control what we get, but you can control what you do with it afterwards. Did you delete it? Did you forward it on? That's the kind of things that we look at. So you can see these what's disturbing, 13 years old, 16 years old, felonies, looking at prison. Unbelievable, right? December 2017, right in our backyard, Rice County, right down the road from Scott County. And this goes back to what I was talking about also with the discretion. 14-year-old girl charged with felony for sending an explicit photo of herself via Snapchat to a boy. He showed it, distributed it to his friends. Rice County charged them both. So the girl says, "I'm not a criminal for taking a selfie. Sexting is common among teens at my school, and we shouldn't face charges for doing it." Her father, "Why are we victimizing the victim?" What do you think?
That's enabling.
What's that?
You're enabling. As a parent, you're enabling your child.
Right. Is she a victim? She took a picture of herself and sent it to her boyfriend. She didn't ask that he send it to his friends. She just sent it to her boyfriend.
Did the boy
Right?
get in trouble at all in this purpose?
What's that?
Did the boy
Yeah, he's charged. The boyfriend is charged, and the girlfriend is charged.
So when they're minors, is there ever a point, is that expunged when they turn 18, or does that follow them through life?
It doesn't expunge, no. And they could be certified as adults. I'm not sure if the Rice County Attorney did that or not, but it doesn't expunge when you're 18, no. And that's, once, well, she's 14, so her information is not public yet, but if she was 16, it would be public, yes.
I have a question. Okay, so let's say something like this happened, and it's made known to like a pastor. Are they legally responsible to report it, or what?
The pastor? I guess it depends on what context that they reported it to the pastor.
Involved?
The pastor would not, I don't think the pastor would be obligated to report it, no.
Okay, then my question is teacher, if we're mandated to be able, that we have to report abuse, so would this be abuse?
I don't know, as a 14-year-old girl taking a picture of herself, no one did it to her, right? No one held a gun to her head, told her to take a picture.
So but
Is
if
she-
the
is that-
student
is
saw
that-
it and brought it to you and said, this was sent to me,
What's that now?
if a student came to you as a teacher and said, the student sent this to me, this is what I got,
Right,
are you mandated then to report?
yes.
Thank you.
An educator, yes, absolutely, yes.
So what if in this situation, because I know this person, her daughter was pressured to send a photo to this guy, he's 18 years old, or 19, and it's happened more than once.
She's a
But
juvenile?
she only did it once, and the mom found out about it, so she's a single parent, so she shared it with the youth pastor. Can you address it to this boy and stuff? So would the pastor still be clear not to have to share it with, or get into trouble, or what?
Yeah, I don't believe, Dale, do you know? I don't believe the pastor would be obligated to do anything at that point.
I don't think so either.
What's that?
I don't think so. I don't think he has to report it.
Right. Yeah. Right, but again, that goes back to, is that child abuse?
But if it is child, if it does cross line child abuse, pastors are being.
Right. Yes.
I don't know if this is a great question for this part of the discussion, but I was at a similar seminar in Hopkins, just 2 days ago. And we were talking about, and we have some kiddos in the room, like they learn not to smoke in school, they're told not to drink, they're told about safe sex. I was just talking to my mother, she said they don't talk about this.
Right.
So they don't know unless we tell them. So how do we get this kind of education into the school system, be it the health class or something, so they learn?
Right.
They don't know unless the parent is involved.
Yeah.
They're learning it in their media class?
Okay. They are learning it. Okay. Did everyone hear her question or comment? Her comment was, kids are learning about not to drink and smoke and do all these other things in their schools, but they're not really learning about this. But then we heard that one individual's school, they are learning about it, which is great. And the question was, how do we get this out? Well, this is part of it. This is part of how we get it out, is educating the parents and the kids that are here, and hopefully spread the word that way. And one thing I'm doing in Scott County is I'm working on getting, at the beginning of the school year, I'm working on getting myself into an assembly to basically do this talk. Probably tailored a little bit different for just high school, but that's what I'm working on in Scott County. So I agree with you. This needs to get out there because however you feel about smoking and stuff like that is fine, but if you get caught with a cigarette, it's not going to probably keep you out of college for the rest of your life. Yes?
So to kind of piggyback off that, I feel like start younger though, not high school, not 6th grade. I mean, it needs to be in elementary school because they have phones when they're 8 years old.
Yep. I agree. She's saying that it has to start earlier than high school because kids are getting phones at a younger and younger age. You saw most like that. A lot of these people that we talked about were in middle school. I agree. It has to start earlier, elementary schools, and it's a frank discussion, as you can see what I'm talking about. It's a sensitive topic, but too bad. It needs to be talked about.
So can we as parents, we should talk to our school district or the school and say, what are you doing about this? Our churches, we should say, what are you doing about this?
Absolutely, and give my name if you want to. I'm glad to go anywhere to talk about this stuff. Yeah, because it has to. It's an issue. We're like we said earlier, we're getting calls from our school liaison officers and counselors saying that in middle school, it's a huge issue on the playground. Our kids are sexting.
Right, and I think that when Jessica gets up, Bartholomew gets up and talks, she's already in some schools.
Yep.
And stuff, and we need this in every single school.
Right.
Just like they are teaching and everything, whether it comes in a health class, or that's the best way to get it in some way.
Yep.
And to get it into their hands, and to be able
Right.
to do it. So we need more people like Jessica to be able to go into the schools, teach about this and what not to do, and that it is out there.
Yep. Absolutely. Again, so we're talking about whether this 14-year-old girl should be charged as a victim or not. Again, that's a sensitive topic, and that's where it goes back to what I talked about earlier with the prosecutorial discretion, and a lot of different opinions on whether she should be charged as a victim or not. In Scott County, that I've dealt with personally, we've had 4 teens charged with felony possession and distribution of child pornography. And we had a whole team under investigation for possession and distribution of child pornography. This team built a share file folder, and they were collecting girls not only from their local high school, but basically throughout the whole metro area. They had, I think, 200 some pictures in this share file folder that only a specific number of people on this team had the codes to get into. And they would all attempt to get pictures from wherever they could, basically, and they'd upload them into the shared file folder. This is a clip I had about that investigation, but I'm not going to get into that. But it was pretty big news. It was on all the local TV stations, and it even made it onto the CBS Evening News. So how does this all kind of come together with the whole trafficking and everything else? Because your picture is out there forever and ever and ever, and you have no control over it. And guys like this will want to come and have sex with you when you're an underage person. We had a sting operation during the Ryder Cup. We had 9 individuals arrested for attempting to have sex with underage girls. That's just one of them. Probably maybe you read about this in the newspapers the last few weeks. It's the Super Bowl. We had a sting operation in Scott County, Hennepin County, and Ramsey County. We had 43 people arrested on felony prostitution and child sex trafficking. Most of them were from the Twin Cities. They weren't the visitors coming in for the Super Bowl. They were all local people. And they wanted to have sex with underage girls. So these pictures of underage girls get out there, and these are the kind of guys that will find you. You had 14 women rescued from sex trafficking. Another one, very recently. Ex-principal, he posed as a teenage boy, engaged in sexually explicit conversations, got 12 of them to send him photos. He used a fake ID on Facebook and on Snapchat. These are the kind of guys that are out there using technology that we have available today because they want to have sex with underage girls. Revenge porn is not only child pornography, but even with adults now, there's a statute for revenge porn. If you disseminate private sexual images of another, you can also be charged. You can see the penalties are quite a lot less because we're adults. And it's not child pornography, it's just you're sending pictures that you weren't supposed to send of your ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, whatever. So what can we do? Talked about that a little bit already. Difficult conversation, but it has to be done. And again, be an example. Facebook, privacy, humility, embarrassed. Nobody has, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute here, but nobody has a sense of privacy anymore. I mean, I'm a pretty private person. But these days, everything gets out there on Instagram, on Facebook, on Snapchat. I mean, trust me, nobody cares what you had for breakfast this morning. Nobody cares. Teach your kids some sense of privacy, some sense of humility. Your 13, 14-year-old daughter, it's your body. You know, it's not out there for the football team to look at. Have some privacy, have some humility. Be embarrassed. There's nothing wrong with being embarrassed. It's a good thing to learn in your life, right? And again, this is a sense of privacy. No one has any privacy anymore. Everyone thinks that everyone should know everything about them at the second it happens. Be aware, ask, and act. You have to be aware. You have to ask, and you can act. Again, those of you, if I would have asked my dad when I was 14 years old, hey Dad, I've got this, there's this new thing out there, I've got this device it's about, 4 or 5 inches, but it's really cool. It allows me to send naked pictures to a girlfriend. It allows me to access hardcore pornography whenever I want to. Can I get that and keep it in my pocket? My dad would have slapped me upside the head and told me to get in the bedroom, right? But here we are. We're giving him to our 12 and 13-year-old kids. I'm guilty. My daughter is 12. She has a cell phone. It was over my objection, but she got one. But you have to be aware, ask, and act. And you are the parent. There's no constitutional right to have a cell phone. All right? You're the parent. You can look at it, even if they have a summer job and pay for it themselves. I don't care. You're the parent. Look at it whenever you want to. I told my daughter when she got one, like I said, over my objection, I said, I will know the passcode, and whenever I say hand it over, you hand it over. If you don't, just get it turned off. And those are the rules, and she abides by them. Yes?
She had a private account, but then we switched her email address, and something happened with the private account. We tried to get back onto her account for about a week or two. Finally, she was getting frustrated, and she said, I can't get into my Musical.ly, which was a big deal for her, you know. And so she said, can I go on a public account? And I said, no. And we created her a new email, but somehow it did get into a public account. I'm not sure if she did it or not, but I did not do it. Anyway, she had it for a couple days, and I was down with a headache one day, and so I was in my room laying down, and she comes into my room and she said, Mom, they want me to send a picture of my navel. Can I do that? Now I'm sitting straight up, like, who wants you to send this? And she said, well, I've been talking to this girl on my Musical.ly account, and she tells me she's from a modeling agency, and can we take a picture of my face, you know, and she's been talking to me, and now she says she wants me to send a picture of my navel. She says she's a girl and she'll send one too. And I said, absolutely not, let me see your phone. She let me see her phone, and there was nothing, you know, that could be traced back to anything explicit, but I could read into some of it, you know, just, oh yes, I really like your look, and different things like that I thought, you know, it just didn't sound right to me. And of course the navel picture, so I said, okay, and there was a text there that had something telling about the modeling agency, and telling this is a new thing we're doing now, where we can get models contracts over the cell phones, over texting. So I said, give me your phone, I'm going to take it to the police station. And so I took it down to the police station,
And I asked them about it. And at the time, they said, you know, there's nothing you can do. You can't trace it anywhere. It's a public account. And they said, just, you know, don't respond to them or respond and say, please stop contacting me. So I took it home. We said, please stop contacting me or I will contact the police. And the person said, for what? And we didn't respond. And we never got anything else. And we, you know, terminated the public account. But is that true that there's no way you can, you know, figure out who's sending it?
Well, it depends. Dale can probably answer that question better than I can, and he's going to speak next. But typically, they do have some great forensic tools out there to find out a lot of these where these people get sent from. But I think there are situations where you just don't know. Is that right?
Well, if it's through a website or some sort of other company that's active within the United States, generally we can send legal paperwork, subpoenas to basically identify where this is coming from. It sometimes takes a couple steps, but there generally are ways to do that. If it's a company outside the U.S., then it's a lot more difficult. You have to use the U.S. Attorney's Office to do that. But for the most part, you can do a lot of trace work to track back who's doing this stuff.
All right. Again, aware, ask, act. Can be uncomfortable conversations with your kids, but it's got to be done. Yes.
I just want to make a comment about the cell phone thing. My daughter's now 18 and was very rebellious, you know, for pretty much 12 on up until she now has her own place. But it was my job to teach and train her to leave. And so having the cell phones at night, they were in the kitchen. There's nothing good going on after 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
And I was one of those parents that when her friends came over, I would let the parents know there's no cell phones in the rooms.
Yep.
And so I think that's a huge thing where it's like, oh my gosh, you have rules? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just really encourage other parents to take their phones at night.
Yep. Great comment. Again, you're the parents. You can make the rules. Yes.
Just kind of piggyback off that. We're the same way. We have a 14 and a 13-year-old. And in our house, there was no cell phones under the age of 13. My daughter just got her phone. There's zero reason for an 8-year-old to have a phone. And not only that, we have an app on our phone called Screen Time, and then we have the Disney Circle in our house. I can shut the phone off at any time. I can do it from here right now. I can see what apps are going on. I can block apps like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Those are blocked on my kids' phones. And same thing, if my kids have friends over, the phones do not go upstairs. They are set on our table at the end of the night, and they are shut off. And are we the main parents in my kids' group? Absolutely.
Yep.
But my kids also know, my son just came to me actually a week and a half ago. A friend of his sent, it was a cartoon picture, but it was of men. I didn't ask for this, and our kids also have to sign a contract with their cell phone that at any given moment they are to hand the phone over. We can see the phone, we have to have the code, and he came to us on his own accord. So I ended up having an uncomfortable conversation with that young man's mom. He thought it was funny, it was innocent, but at the same time, it was inappropriate.
Right.
And
Yep.
again, we're the mean parents in my kids' circle, and I am okay with that.
Yep.
And it doesn't stop their friends from coming over.
Yep. Can everyone hear comments and stuff up here? Okay. Basically, the gist of it was set the rules. Nothing wrong with being the mean parent. But she has some apps that are available to her on her kids' phones that she can track what they're on and she basically shut the phones off whenever she wants to.
What is that?
What is the app?
So the app is Screen Time, and it's like $3 a month, and it's most worth. It's so worth it. And then the other thing we have in our house is called the Disney Circle. It's a cube.
I'll pass this in case there's more.
And you can shut. Like my son has an Xbox, so he actually got grounded the other day. So the Xbox is actually paused. He can't play it. So it's called Disney Circle and Screen Time. And the teenagers will hate it. They will think you're the worst parent in the world. But again, like he said, our job is not, and I think that's a society issue right now, we are too worried about being friends, and my job is not to be my kid's friend. They can hate me all they want. I always tell them I still love you, and my job is to, like you said, is to set you free with your wings. And I don't care if my kids are mad at me, and they don't have Facebook. They don't have those things because their minds can't process it. So.
Yeah, all good points. Yes.
I just
Right.
fun.
I have been to a couple different trainings for sex trafficking and things similar to this, but something that I learned was that Xbox, like, or whatever kind of Game Boy things, I don't know what they are, they have chat rooms. And that's another way that predators can get in contact with your children. There's a lot of apps that are created for like kids to chat. And if you look at the reviews, a lot of them will say like, this was cool until these perverts started coming on here asking me to send them pictures and whatever. So I just really want to stress to parents to really be careful with, I mean, you think that it's just a silly little app that's free for kids and whatever, but it can be really dangerous, and it's a free opening for somebody to be very inappropriate. So.
Question. How well funded is your department for prosecuting, and along with the police and everything that does this? And how are the judges with following through? Because I've talked to officers before in a lot of cases where they get frustrated with busting criminals because the prosecution doesn't follow through with the judges.
Really? I want to like show hands. Are there any judges in the room? All right. I think as far as my office, as far as prosecuting these as funding, I believe that my office is very aggressive in going after the child pornography, the sexting, the trafficking cases. So we're very aggressive with that. Juvenile court and judges, again, these are my personal opinions. I think our juvenile court system is way too easy.
Yes.
I think our judges are way too easy on our juveniles. I'm not saying throw them in prison and throw away the key, but we actually have, juvenile repeat offenders that just really don't care because they come into court and they're like, fine, give me 10 hours of community work service, I don't care. They can do it standing on their head. It's just, I just don't, my personal opinion is I don't, and again, it's not only just, that's just not a judge issue, although I think they can be harsher, but it's also a legislative issue. I mean, our juvenile court system is set up that way. So it's legislators need to get involved and, in my opinion, give us as prosecutors more tools to use for juveniles.
I'm just thinking too on some of the examples you had where the kids are 13, thank you, where they're 13 and 14. At what point would that be a responsibility of the parent? If the kids are being charged at, especially if they're multiple, I mean, that might be a whole different ballgame, but kids aren't, their brains aren't developed. Many people know that. They're dumb. I'm not trying to defend their behavior, but at what point there has to be some responsibility on the parent part, and does that make sense?
It does make sense. You're right. These kids' brains aren't developed to that point, and they're not, especially depending what kind of upbringing they have. They don't have the maturity, the social, I guess. I mean, I was brought up very well, but a lot of kids didn't grow up like I did with two parents in the home and learning from my mom and dad right and wrong. Some kids, their parents are criminals, they're meth addicts, they're in prison. But that's a difficult question. When do we start holding the parents accountable for what their kids did? Really can't. Unless it gets to the point where it's child endangerment, where they're allowing them to be, if they know about it, obviously, encouraging it, that's a different situation. So if we can find some avenue to go after the parents as far as child endangerment, malicious punishment, anything like that, we certainly do that. And we also have what's called our child in need of protective services area of the county that we also handle, where we can remove kids from the home, place them in a better environment. But that's a whole, taking kids away from their parents is a huge deal. We can't just walk in and do it. As much as we want to go in and say you are I was about to use a bad word, bad parent, we can't just go and grab them and put them somewhere. You know, so, okay, we gotta move quickly here. One more? Okay.
The only comment on the apps and everything, it's great, it's better than nothing, but don't think for a second your kids can't find ways around them. So you still have to be diligent about watching what they're doing. Your example of the in-game chat, you're not going to filter it, you're not going to be able to log it, and when it scrolls up, it's gone, right? So it's not the only thing, but it's certainly better than nothing.
Yep.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I think Jessica's going to talk about this more, but self-worth, no matter how tempting it is to like someone, self is worth more to you than degrading yourself. Most of these girls and boys feel awful afterwards. It gets into depression and issues that Jessica will talk about. All right, and we're over time. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed this. Good discussion.